LeBron James, 40,000 points. First player to ever get there. That's an amazing number to get to, especially for it to be a first. LeBron, unquestionably top 3 player of all time, probably top 2 in a lot of arguments and cases, probably the greatest of all time. I personally refuse to definitively claim him or Michael Jordan or Kobe as the greatest of all time. Not that anybody cares about my opinion or what I have to say about anybody in the world of sports. My opinion means nothing, but my stance on it is that I kind of just refuse to definitively put one guy into the GOAT status or GOAT category. I think it's too difficult. I think it's hard to compare the bodies of work between all those guys, considering the teams they played on, the style of basketball that was more applicable and acceptable in the eras that they played in, their competition, right? There's a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to talk about. I think unquestionably, when it comes to the GOAT argument and you roll through, let's just say you break it down into a categorical argument. You talk about playoff success rate. Then you talk about statistical averages, points per game, assists per game, rebounds per game, everything, right? Ball handling, like stats, assists, points, rebounds, defensive metrics, all-star appearances. There's all kinds of categories you break it down into. I think if you used longevity factor or a category when considering the greatest of all time in basketball, LeBron blows anybody out of the water by a mile. For him to be playing at the caliber and level that he's playing at is a similar narrative I ran with when Albert Pujols in his final season in the MLB. It's the same exact thought process. You can use the thought process on, I was going to say the NFL, but it's hard. It's hard because Mahomes is that guy. But I'll do the baseball analogy and I'll do the Albert Pujols analogy because I still think it definitely holds true, right? So you can argue LeBron's the GOAT. You can argue a lot of different things. You can talk about the big 3 in the GOAT argument: Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan. The big 3, arguably the 3 best of all time. Categorically speaking, I mentioned that. You could also talk about championships. You could talk about playoff averages. You can talk about so many different things. But when you're discussing the GOAT argument in the NBA between LeBron, Michael Jordan, and a lot of people throw Kobe into that mix, you can break it down into any category you want. And some might favor one guy or another. But if you use longevity as a category when making the GOAT argument for one guy or the other, LeBron blows not just Michael and Kobe out of the water. He blows everybody way out of the water. And his career milestone of scoring 40,000 points to me was the equivalent of what I said about Albert Pujols when he hit his 700th career home run. Nobody in the history of that particular sport will ever accomplish that feat ever again. When Albert Pujols hit his 700th home run, I said that's the last guy in baseball history that we will ever see to finish his career with 700 homers and 3,000 hits. That's it. That is the last guy to ever do it. Ever in a million years. It will never be repeated. With LeBron scoring 40,000, first player to ever do it. And it'll never happen again. It just won't. Because in order to do that, you have to play the sport for forever, for eternity, for 20 years at an unfathomably high level of play. Unfathomably high. For Albert Pujols and his 20-year career, you had to average 150 hits or more every single season for 20 years to get 3,000 hits. To hit 700 home runs, you had to average 35 home runs a year, every year, for 20 years. And in LeBron's case, 40,000 points can only be potentially flirted with or eclipsed by somebody who plays as long as LeBron has played. Okay, well, a lot of guys played as long as LeBron, and Vince Carter played in the league for a long time. No. Sorry. Left it out. You have to play as long as LeBron, and you have to average 25 points a game for your entire career. You just have to. It's crazy. It's crazy that LeBron got there. It's unbelievable. If you go to his basketball reference page, I actually shortchanged him. I said 25 points a game. LeBron averages 27 points a game. That's crazy. It's unbelievable. So say what you want about LeBron. I think there's arguments for 3 different players to be considered the greatest of all time. But if you're making that argument and the category or criteria comes up about longevity, just skip over it because LeBron has that covered and handled. It's done and gone. He played 20 years, averaging 27 points a game and just scored 40,000 points. It'll never be repeated. It'll never be caught again. Nobody's ever going to get there because it's just not realistic. It's not doable for anybody except somebody who could potentially be considered the greatest to ever do it. I don't see anybody else in the NBA right now that even rivals LeBron as the greatest of all time or the greatest. There's other players, yeah, you know what, they're probably better. And you know what, like Nikola Jokic, probably the best player in the NBA. I was going to say, I hesitated with that because I don't know. It's hard. Again, it depends on your criteria.